What is your moment of the weekend?
Can you guess?
No.
It's going to be Miedema coming back and scoring at the Emirates. I wish I put my house on that, because that was
tasty.
like, you knew that was going to happen. And there was a moment right at the beginning, just before Arsenal actually scored, where she robbed the ball off Kim Little and Zinsberger was way out of her goal and it went inches wide, and that would have been such a mortifying way for Arsenal to concede to Viv. But you knew it was going to happen. It was almost like Zinsberger knew it was going to happen by the way she didn't dive for the ball, and I appreciate it did. Got a deflection.
I was going to say it's a cheeky one to get in though as well.
Yeah, and I think just the kind of reception for her, she said it was a match she was one of the most nervous about, which I think is quite sweet.
Vivianne nervous is
I know. And I just thought the Arsenal fans' reception for her and the City's fans welcoming of her was a very wholesome moment.
It was. After the game, it was pretty beautiful sort of seeing them all hugging and
so
sort of reuniting. Yeah, I mean, what was the atmosphere kind of like when she scored? Was there sort of a little bit of a ooh?
I think there was almost Arsenal fans like, oh no, she doesn't play for us anymore. City fans go mad. But yeah, it was, I don't know whether there was a collective groan of people just being, fucking knew this would happen.
Yeah, all day. Right, let's get stuck into that game then. It was a pretty spicy fixture. Arsenal 2-2 with Man City. Obviously, like we said, Miedema scored on her return to the Emirates, but then GF pops up, says, no, hun, I'm going to get the equaliser. I think she probably would have said it like that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What do you think would have been going down on their car journey home? Do you reckon sort of a little bit of frostiness, or perhaps just a mutual respect for what both of them have done?
Viv actually,
is someone sleeping on the sofa tonight?
Viv was asked about this afterwards, and she was like, it's going to be a happy household because we both scored, and you shared the points, I guess, rather than someone coming home a winner or someone coming home a loser. So maybe it was quite a all right, if it's going to go like this, at least this is the way it went. We both got to score and we both got the same points.
And then they flipped a coin for the takeaway and had a lovely night.
I wonder if there'd been a forfeit. If the person who loses has to buy dinner, but
literally that.
Split the bill, I don't know.
Salads all round. Mead has now scored 8 goals in Arsenal's opening WSL fixtures, and Miedema has now scored against all 16 teams she has faced in the WSL. Stop it.
Lovely stats, that.
Stop it.
Very nice.
Jess Park scoring a... What some people have called it a stunner.
It was a stunner. Yeah? I just think when Sky said, have we got the goal of the season, it might have been a bit OTT.
Goal of the season seems a bit
but it was the fact she took it so quickly. There was a bit of it came out of the box and she took it and snapped at it she got the positioning of it perfectly. I did think it wasn't quick enough for Zinsberger to watch it like the rest of us. I do feel that there was time for her to make some sort of movement towards it, and I want to know, again, another goalkeeping question.
Oh God, if I must.
If you know you're not going to get the shot, do you just dive anyway so it looks like you're trying? You
have to make some attempt, and I think I've been trying with all goalkeeper kind of mistakes or things that we kind of look back on a little bit more critically. I kind of replay it a couple of times to see what can I possibly do to kind of make a goalkeeper's life easier. But in this particular one, I was thinking maybe the camera angles isn't the right way to kind of decide whether she was too far over one side. But it felt like to me, had she kind of, because there was a distance, and it wasn't like there were loads of bodies in front of her to kind of obscure her view.
Fast.
It wasn't super fast. There wasn't a weird deflection. It wasn't, and I just think that Zinsberger, I think, could have made an effort for it. I think she was so planted. I think that was the issue. Her feet were so planted.
She'd actually grown roots into the ground. Yeah.
Normally in those kind of situations, you would be sort of on the edge of so you'd be sort of balancing on the edge of your toes,
your feet,
essentially, ready to go, ready to spring. But she was so set that I don't think that. It wasn't helpful, but I think she could have done.
If I was a goalkeeper, I'd be the one that when the ball, the ball's going wide. I'd be the one doing that sarcastic dive. Do you know that kind of way?
Some kind of effort. I think then people wouldn't criticise it. They'd be it was top bins. You couldn't do much about it.
And I think because it happened similarly at the beginning of last season, where there were moments where you're like, oh, at least just throw yourself at it, even if you know you're not going to get it.
I think it's that. And with Daphne van Domselaar hot on your heels,
DVD waiting in the wings,
literally that. I'd be thinking, well, maybe we just put some effort into it. But let's talk a little bit about Jess Park. She obviously got 2 goals in their Champions League first leg versus Paris FC last week. She's been pretty spicy over the last kind of couple of games. What do you think?
It's so exciting because one of the roles she played last season was in the 10 when Jill Roord was injured. She played more centrally, and I was like, how is she going to fit in now if Viv is going to play deeper? How's that going to look? The fact that they're getting them all wedged in there is great, and I think it gives players a little bit more freedom as well. And there's some good versatility in terms of where they can play. She can play out wide. So I think seeing her getting to play and still delivering in the way she's doing, and Miedema's delivering, like, that's an exciting time for City fans.
She looked really on point, and I think that goal is only going to boost her confidence, but it was the way that it was her decision making that I really
quick.
Literally within snaps she was like, I'm not going to pass to anyone else, I'm going to turn and I'm going to take this on the volley and see what happens. And like sometimes you just need a bit of luck, and I think that's what played, because it wasn't a particularly well struck strike, but there was very controversial moments in this game. Like, as a game to dissect, I feel like it's a chewy one. It's like a 20-ounce ribeye steak, this game.
I love that. And you can have someone on one side going, but what about this? And then the other side will go, yeah, but what about this? And then you're like, well, actually, maybe it all just evened itself out. Yeah, shall we delve into them? Let's delve into them.
Come on then. So Aisha on Instagram says, was Caitlin Ford offside? And Sandy has asked, the foul on Kelly or no?
Okay, so the Caitlin Ford one on replay with, freeze frame. You can see, I think, I can't remember who it is, but I think it might be Alana Kennedy, I'm not 100% sure. Her heel, I think, plays forward onside.
Yes.
But you have to factor in that there's no VAR and this was real time. And for me, it's not something that you can be super pissed off about, because it wasn't a really obvious
for sure
one.
100%.
The Chloe Kelly one, so I think I saw it from the angle that the benches saw it from on a replay initially, and it looks like McCabe clatters into her, and then I saw it from the other side and it didn't feel like there was that much contact.
I was going to say I'm ebbing on like the
so even that was like not that controversial, and I don't feel like either of them were that controversial. And I think when I'm on Twitter, like during the game, people were like, oh my god, it turns out Ford was onside, and then the Chloe Kelly thing happened, people were like, yeah, well, I guess actually maybe on balance,
swings and roundabouts,
it maybe evens it out a bit.
Okay, all right. I think that's a fair representation of what happened.
I think had it been given, I wouldn't have been, if the free had been given, it wouldn't have been something where you'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, all day, for sure. Well, the controversy continues. Ayaka Yamashita got the nod in goal over Kiara Keating. This was a very interesting choice from Gareth Taylor, given this is a big season opener. They haven't had much time to kind of, formulate those partnerships at the back. No discredit to Yamashita, obviously an incredible goalkeeper, Japan national team, won countless league trophies, part of the Women's World Cup, like incredible goalkeeper. But you've also got a goalkeeper in Kiara Keating who did absolutely incredibly last season, made her got into the England squad for the first time, probably sort of like hot on the heels, I think, of Hannah Hampton for the next few years, kind of pipped to be kind of like one of the next big things, had an incredible Golden Glove winning WSL campaign with City. It was a big part of the reason that they were pushing Chelsea to the final wire last year. It just felt a bit weird not to see her start.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting as well is that Yamashita got the nod in the Champions League as well.
Yeah.
Which I thought, okay, that's interesting that she's gotten that over Kiara. But then I thought maybe City were expected to win that game. Maybe it was a good opportunity for her to get minutes and, build some relationships. But then to get the nod in this game, obviously very important game, we don't know what's going on in training, how players are training. Yamashita, obviously older than Kiara Keating, more experienced perhaps, and maybe
28, 29.
Yeah, 28, has been showing perhaps a maturity that Gareth Taylor felt the team might need in a big game like that. I don't know. It's a tough one to call. It's we don't know what's going on in training, so
for sure.
It's hard to know.
And you never really get those kind of honest answers.
No,
it's not like,
of course
Kiara
not.
actually had quite a bad week.
Do you remember Roebuck last year? Like we couldn't get told anything for a long time.
Baffling. But yeah, I do. I kind of feel sorry for Kiara. Hopefully, there's nothing too serious going on, and she's absolutely fine. It's just kind of like, I don't know, just sort of maybe create that competitiveness between them. You don't know, but yeah, I did feel like, Kiara had kind of worked so well with the players at the back. I did feel that there were moments, I think, where it seemed a bit disjointed between Yamashita and the defence at points, which is obviously bound to happen given how new she is into the squad, but that will iron itself out. But yeah, I would...
she made some big saves. Like
she did.
She had that one-on-one with Stina Blackstenius.
Yeah.
If we're going to get into that side of things, like I think Arsenal's setup, I understood why they started Blackstenius, because that ball over the top she was constantly catching players out, and she is excellent at receiving those balls over the top and taking on defenders. She gets in regularly. I think we know that Stina needs a number of chances before she'll get one on target or score a goal, right? But she does score in the big games. She likes to score against Manchester City, and I think that was working. Part of me wondered, should she have gotten more? If Jonas had in mind that Stina was going to start and that was the way they were going to set up, should she have had more time in the Champions League to get that rustiness out, to maybe get more opportunities on goal and get those scoring boots back? Could that have been the difference? Because there was a couple she should have scored. Same with Russo. You know, they had opportunities that they should have scored. So part of me wonders, could there have been more time for her? But it's a hard one to call.
I think before we get on to the next controversial moment, I think that's what I was going to touch on a little bit more, I suppose, because with the Arsenal attacking line, there were so many moments where I feel like Arsenal could have put that game to bed, especially their first 20, 30 minutes, where Man City did not know what the hell was going on, but it was that ball over the top, the through ball on occasion, and I feel like Blackstenius and Russo, so many clear-cut one-on-one chances, the decision-making and literally the final touch. There was the Blackstenius chance where she could have just
side net. She got around the keeper.
I honestly, I do not know.
Caldente similarly.
And I think we were kind of speaking about before, is Jonas kind of going to get some of criticism if the squad don't sort of manage this? But you think there is literally only so much you can do.
Yeah, so post-Champions League match against Häcken, I thought, they were doing that frustrating thing of goals are cool, but can you pass the ball 900 times in one half without achieving anything with it? And that was frustrating. And that you can kind of look to the manager and say, what's going wrong? They didn't create enough in that Häcken game for all the possession they had.
For sure.
There's only so much Jonas can do when they are creating those chances. They do have those one-on-one moments. And they're not putting them. He can't kick the feckin' ball in the goal for you. Do you know what I mean?
He cannot.
I will lay things at his door and say I'm maybe not getting the most out of the squad that he has, but I don't think you can blame him for players not. It's on a plate for them, for the players not putting it in the back of the net. And I think it's one of those things where it gets in the head of a team. And the problem is it's been in Arsenal's head for a couple of seasons now.
Absolutely.
Where you're okay, you have the possession, you're creating the chances. Now you're creating a lot of chances on target and you're not putting it in the back of the net. And the longer that goes on, the more players are stressed, I guess.
Thing.
Yeah, and we end up talking about it. So I don't know what the answer is to fix that, to be honest.
All right, so we've had controversial moment, two partners going and getting goals. We've had the controversial Jess Park, should Zinsberg have done more? The controversial Caitlin Ford offside and the foul on Kelly. The controversial where the hell was Kiara Keating? And next up on the list, Kira Walsh. Casually spotted watching the game after being involved in her own tasty fixture with Barca, I think the night before. So yeah, that was an interesting one, seeing her in the stands. Not expecting that.
No, well, given the links that were made to Arsenal pre-season, I don't know what to take from that, to be totally honest. I think, we've seen players from the WSL go over to Spain and watch games and watch Barcelona play, and this was a big game. She'd obviously played for Man City before. Arsenal have been interested in her, plenty of friends. I think she was with Leah Williamson's family and she's obviously best friends with Leah Williamson. So I don't know what to draw from that. Maybe she was just there to watch a good game of football.
Personally, I think she probably had cheeky way with the commercial teams. Listen, if you chuck on another couple of zeros, I think Barca will buy me. Sell me even come the January transfer window. So wink, wink, nod, nod. The 700th controversial moment of the game.
I think that controversial, but go on.
What? I'm trying to make some drama,
okay,
Rachel.
Go on. There was enough bloody drama. There was a blockbuster.
WSL opening weekend, all right? If you can't add drama to that, I mean, when can you? Man City thrashed Paris FC 5-0 in the Champions League, but without Bunny Shaw, because why? They'd failed to file a visa application for her, and I'm annoyed at us, actually, because we spoke about the what the fuck moments.
None of us could have predicted that. Come on.
And we didn't, okay? We talked about seagulls and birds landing on pitches. We talked about
yellow cards and red cards.
Chelsea getting a sellout, which they technically did this weekend. So
okay, it was Kings Meadow, chill out.
Yeah, but it's still a sellout. I didn't really specify. But yeah, what the hell? What's the hell?
For me, this was less about being worried about City not beating Paris FC, because I think we thought they should, but we also in the back of our minds knew what Paris had done last season. So there was that element of what if Paris win? And this has happened where they've left, their top striker at home. But I did think City had the squad to win the game. So for me, it wasn't so much that. It was just that it was such an amateur move. And for those saying, well, the fixtures came out late, there wasn't a lot of time, they're not going to the average Joe Blogs visa line to get a visa for Bunny Shaw. There's visas that exist for these kinds of jobs, if you like. There's lots of jobs across the world that require fast time visas at a quick turnaround. I mean, otherwise football just wouldn't function, or sport wouldn't function. So there are avenues and ways of getting quick visas. This was a the fuck up. And I just think when you think about the amount of stick that Arsenal got for bringing the wrong bloody socks.
I was literally about to say that. But it's just the fear that the person who knows it was their job must get when they're like,
could you imagine that pit in the pit of your stomach where you're like, oh my God, of all the players, Jesus Christ.
But to know that how impactful that could have been for like a big Champions League campaign.
You'd be there watching on your phone going, please score, please score, please score.
Literally that. Yeah, there's obviously a lot riding on the game for Arsenal facing Hacken this week. Rachel, you're going to be bringing us a special mini preview on Thursday with Arsblog's Tim Stillman. Tune in for that on Thursday. Before we have a look at Bompasta Chelsea, let's talk about game attendances this weekend, because this does feel like another controversial moment. There were 41,000 people at the Emirates and just 12,000 at Old Trafford for Man United's opener. Listener Ali asked, are clubs taking fans for granted by not putting in marketing efforts to promote the game? What are your thoughts first on the attendances at the opening weekend? Do you think they were disappointing, or actually you're not too scared about or nervous about that being?
I'm not scared or nervous. I wouldn't include Arsenal in it. I think getting 41,000 at the Emirates when your men's team are playing Manchester City is pretty good going. And I think anyone trying to make out that Arsenal not selling out was problematic just shows how much Arsenal have changed things, that 41,000 can be deemed not very good.
Set the bar too high.
I think 12,000 at Old Trafford was a shame. I think more broadly around the other games, apart from, as you say, Chelsea selling out their 3,500 or 3,800 or whatever it was at Kings Meadow, it just didn't feel like there was as much hype around the opening weekend, more broadly. Okay. Now, there's plenty of media access. We had, a media access day. There was lots of that kind of stuff, but it just didn't feel like the build-up and exciting kind of vibes that we've had at previous seasons were there. And I think maybe it's because we didn't have a major tournament that a Euros or a World Cup that we could lean into in the same way. And maybe it exposed that clubs had perhaps relied a lot on major tournaments for those opening game excitement. And maybe we hadn't realised that. Do you know what I mean? And now we haven't had that. Clubs haven't, and look, this isn't to say clubs haven't put in work, like they absolutely have, but I just thought, I appreciate some United fans might say, well, it was West Ham. It's your opening game. You're back. We've had a long break. It's at Old Trafford. Like, that should sell itself kind of thing. And I do fear, given, I can imagine Ratcliffe not wanting to allow them to spend any money promoting the game. But that was a little bit disappointing. And then just more broadly around, I would have liked to see some of the smaller grounds get more numbers for the opening games, because it's back. We're excited. It's going to be an exciting season. There's lots of new players to look at. And I just thought maybe there'd have been a bit more oomph around the opening season. But maybe clubs are trying to spread it out more broadly.
Yeah, potentially. I think, definitely disappointing from Man United's end. I think, maybe there was some kind of factor in not having a top four team to play against. I don't know too much about West Ham's fan base, but I don't think a lot of them necessarily travel that far.
But that's an excuse when it's mid-season, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it might have potentially been different had it been like Manchester United, Man City, or a game like that for their opening.
Yeah, I still think it's...
And I think also with Manchester United, I think there is also that factor that the sort of the big names, the kind of bums on seats players, Earps, there's a big fan base around Earps, and she's obviously gone to France this year. So I think that there are, like, in the same way that Lucy Bronze would have pulled in an absolute shed ton of players to Kings Meadow this weekend, like just by herself. Like, regardless, Chelsea would have done good on numbers anyway, but Lucy Bronze...
Although I think Chelsea should have had it at Stamford Bridge.
100% all day. But yeah, I don't think it's worrying.
No, I don't think it's worrying. I just think it's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I had a couple of friends there. You were obviously there at the Emirates. They said the atmosphere was a little bit flatter, but I think it's that thing where Arsenal have achieved so much that the standard has now been set high.
Yeah,
it's like the Lionesses in the Euros win. Okay, well, we expect that from every single tournament they ever, and every international game they've got to win. Otherwise, it's like complete. It's a failure. So, yeah, I'm not worried. Let's just temper our expectations a little bit and kind of like see how the rest of the season pans out, because it's still set to be a record attendance across the year. And Barclays' big investment in the league just announced they're going to be ploughing in double the investment into the WSL and the Women's Championship, extended their partnership with the leagues until 2028. So that will also play a factor, and a nice little £20 million cheeky gift from the Premier League. So I have no doubt that will kind of go into marketing efforts and assisting the clubs in getting bums on seats.